It's Power to Truth with me, Prof JJ Tabane, coming to you live from Hyde Park here in Johannesburg. And tonight we're focusing really on the crisis that has befallen Gauteng in particular, but also beginning to slip out in other parts of the country. We had some students in the Free State and in the Western Cape also suffering the same thing. People eating poison from from food, from spaza shops, it seems. And over the weekend, the Gauteng government sitting down to look at what could be done, stakeholders gathering to talk about what could be done. But of course, as I had said before, it is inexplicable, and I hope that my guest here, Mpwanawa, who is the acting head of department in the Department of Economic Development, will tell me how they explain this. And he's got to explain to me why is it that we've got 25 deaths now, but in fact this follows many deaths that happened last year, and with nothing happening in as far as getting to the bottom of it. Now there's a frenzy. The Minister of Health was here the weekend saying that there's going to be a report that comes out of laboratories that will finally tell us not only what has caused these deaths with a measure of certainty, but what needs to be done to sort out that particular issue. We see now that the health inspectors, the JMPD, there's some inspections happening, which I think is a welcome development. I think we need to be able to say that. It's something that should have been happening anyway, because if you have got, outlets that are dishing out food that is of a poisonous nature, you would expect that the government that cares would have systems in place where they go and inspect. First of all, to give those people who are selling proper licenses that force them to comply with things like expiry dates. I mean, if you go into some of the spaza shops, you'll find that some of the food is not even labeled. Forget about the fact that it has an expiry date. Some of it don't even have an expiry date. We are told by some of the investigative journalism that's been happening around this issue that, some of the spaza shops actually manufacture their own labels. They manufacture them and they write whatever date, they like on those labels. I mean, it's a center of chaos. But at the same time, we're talking here about a government that's telling us about township economy. And that's what I would like to discuss, to say, how do you strike a balance between ensuring that township economy is not slowed down, but at the same time you make sure that our children are safe? A decision has been made, for example, to stop the sale at the point of outside schools or outside school fences where kids buy snacks and so on. And we've seen that maybe some of the kids that have passed away were passed away having consumed food from those particular areas. So that's our conversation here tonight. You can give us a ring as well. I think this is an issue that requires all of us as a nation to put our heads together to say what we're going to do. Hopefully, at some point, the president will break his silence and tell us at the level of a union building what's going to be done. There were some mutterings about whether there should be a state of emergency. I don't know how that will look like, but it looks like it's a crisis. Just today, 2 more kids died, and of course that still has to be confirmed, but it looks like it's a daily occurrence now. I mean, we are now at 25 deaths. Now one wonders how many children have to die before drastic action is taken, and one hopes that we can hear from the head of state very soon, because he's been pretty quiet. Maybe I don't know whether it's quiet diplomacy, because that's what the South African government knows. They know how to keep quiet sometimes about some of this crisis. Even if a crisis is staring them in the face, like what's happening in Mozambique, where already 26 people have died there. It doesn't look, it's like we've been numbed, When there are deaths, and it looks like we have been numbed. Anyway, that's what we're talking about tonight. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about, I did promise you that I'm going to spend some time on this issue about, multinationals. A couple of years, for those of you who are old enough, you would remember when there was a discussion about BEE charters, And some of you won't even know what that means, because all you know is that BE has failed, it's terrible, it's for the elites and so on. There's no analysis about BE. So let's go back 20 years ago, when there was a buzz about change in this country, right? There was a big question about, should international companies also have a BEE shareholding or not? And it was a big debate, because they were saying, some of the international companies were saying, no, we don't care, we're not going to come at all to your country to invest, should you insist on this so-called BEE. But let me tell you something. A couple of decades ago, I was part of a company that tried to open factories and technology transfer and a business, the technology business in Kenya. And that business here at home, they were refusing to transform. They had a lot of excuses. When you say that transform, they say, yeah, but why must we give up, 40% of our company and give it to black people, who didn't work for it? And they were just saying all sorts of disparaging things. Then they go to Kenya, they're trying to expand and then they are told there, no, sorry, you gotta partner with a Kenyan. If you want to do business here, you have to partner with a Kenyan. And they have a word for it. They don't call it BE there. They call it indigenization. And you either partner with a Kenyan or you ship out. They're not interested in your story. Even if you try to do business here in Lesotho here, they'll tell you, oh, linaleba Sotho na, kamo business in Yaluna. It's called indigenization. It's not unique to South Africa. Sometimes South Africans have this so-called exceptionalism. You think you are special, and you're not. In any territory in the world, when you go there to do business, there's an expectation, a legitimate one, that you partner with the local partners, right? And you must give up part of the shares of your business in order to do business in that country. Sometimes when you talk about BE, people think it's a unique thing, it's a South African thing, and South African blacks are just entitled. No, it's nothing like that. Anyway, coming back to the international. So 20 years ago, when the BE was growing, was being put in place, there was something called equity equivalence. In other words, the companies are expected to do something that will equate to them having a shareholder. I'm trying to simplify it so that you understand it. So if the company comes as 100%, they'll have to do something commercially that would equal to 26% of their share capital, so that they then qualify in that regard. Now, a number of companies who we're going to expose over the next few weeks have actually insulted our intelligence by trying to front in this regard. In other words, they would find their favorites and bribe them, right? Instead of doing proper equity equivalent project, they would bribe these people, and then they would then end up with a fake BE certificate. Can you believe it? But that's only one version of it. Another version is where you've got multinationals who have become complacent, the likes of Vodacom. So Vodacom has a parent company called Vodafone. They come here, they print money here. You should just see how they are spending obscene amounts of money on branding themselves and so on, and just printing money at our expense, right? And then they are going to the highest cost because they've got deep pockets again. So now, a person who worked for them, Makate, gave them a product that gave them billions. They want to do everything in their power not to comply with the highest court, and they are saying, no, they'll only listen when they are told by the Concord that they must pay this guy, right? This is the people who they made heaven and earth promises when they came here initially to come into the market. Then you've got Fly South Air. That's my last comment now before I run out of time. According to the Aviation Act here, that's linked to the BE Act as well, any airline that is going to operate here, the kind of routes that Fly South Air is having in this country, I'm not going to talk about the fact that they've got flights that take 5 or 7 hours just to move from Joburg to Cape Town, stuck everywhere at airports. And there's always a story with Fly South Air. When you go in there, you just pray that, hey, I hope it's not that flight that went to PE and Cape Town and back to PE, and the people who were there the whole night flying up and down. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the fact that they are operating illegally as we speak now. But who's going to talk? Who's going to tell them? Who's going to stop them? They are owned 75% by foreign interests, which means that that's exactly opposite of what is required in the Aviation Act that says any airline operating here must be substantially owned by South Africans. Fly South Air. Nobody's going to tell them because you don't touch, you know. If it's a white business, you must not touch. No, no, no. Spaza shops, they must go. They must get out. You must bundle them in a train, and they must all go. But here's a white, foreign-owned company that is operating with impunity. And I wonder what the Minister of Trade and Industry is saying about it. Because these guys like to keep quiet, man. This is where Pakistan should be talking and saying to these guys, get your act together, get a BEE partner, or get out. Simple. And you empower SAA to have more fleet so that they can fly here legally and make sure that the money circulates here. These guys charge you, overcharge you for flying, and they call themselves a low cost. They overcharge you, and then that money is taken out of the country. I mean, it's bizarre. Anyway, we'll keep talking about this until somebody listens. But I hope Pakistan, I hope you will come here and talk to us soon, right, must tell me what he's doing about companies that are holding fake BEs that are issued by his department. They're not issued by Empower decks on the side. No, they're issued by the DTIC. They issue fake certificates to foreign companies that are refusing to transform, with corrupt officials in that department being bribed to issue those certificates. We see you. Don't think we don't see you. We see you, and we're going to watch you. We're going to expose you. After the break, we talk to Mponawa, who's the acting head of department at the Department of Economic Development in Gauteng. And you can also give us a ring to talk about what you think of what should be done about our kids dying through this poisonous stuff that they buy at tuck shops. Well, you close the tuck shops. Is that a good decision to say, let's close the tuck shops? Patrick the Alliance say, no, just take all the foreigners. They must go out. They must go harm there. Is that the solution? Or is it just populism that is not going to take us forward?